Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. We're here to talk to you today about TNA Impact's debut on AMC, and oh boy, is it something. I'm your host, as always, Chad. Joining me is the glorious one himself, Marcus. Marcus, how the hell are you?
Good man, always a pleasure doing this with you. But yeah, not a lot of excitement going in tonight's show, which we'll get off into why.
Yeah, this company is a shell of its former self, and holy shit. Uh, so if you're new to the show, if you're new to TNA, they debuted on AMC, their largest television network partner since Spike TV back in 2005 to 2014. I don't know how we should perceive these numbers, if I'm being honest. Reports came out that TNA drew. I had the wrong damn tweet. I think it was 175,000 for their initial debut, which is I don't know if that's good or not anymore for cable TV. Yeah, cable TV's numbers have been just truly abysmal. All right, so according to PW Torch, the numbers were 173,000. WrestleNomics said that it was 95,000. Either way, the demo rating is 0.04 remains the same regardless. Whichever number you believe is true, I don't know which one is true. WrestleNomics seems to have a good base when it comes to numbers in the wrestling industry, but PW Torch more than likely probably have a better source with TNA and or AMC. So the idea of it being 173,000 seems more, I think, in line with the potential of what we're looking at. The figure does not include TNA Plus or AMC Plus, and I would also hazard to guess it probably doesn't factor in Sling. I recently got Sling to watch TNA on AMC, and I got to be honest with you, I don't know if it's worth the money. So this is about what I expected, if I'm being honest. The idea that like people, well, yeah, TNA can compete with AEW once they get a good TV deal, and AMC is absolutely that good TV deal. No, it wasn't. It never was. AMC's a dying channel. If it's still around in 5 years, I'll be flabbergasted. Flabbergasted. My gasps will have been flabber. I don't know that TNA will do much better than this figure going forward because the first show was so fucking bad. Marcus, we talked briefly about the premieres and debuts of the other shows in TNA's history when they debuted on a new network. And outside of Pursuit, which was, not one that they really advertised, hyped up, or I think even got paid for. They were a last second option because of the fallout from leaving Pop TV, and also they were only on it for like 6 months or so as Anthem finished up with acquiring TNA and Access TV and getting them on Access. So I don't think that we've seen just how good the shows have been when they debuted on Fox Sports Now. Nothing exciting, but a really good solid first show on Spike, on Destination America, on Time. They always seem to have on Access. They always seem to have like a big thing, good shows, big moment. You know, Team 3D debuted on the first edition of Spike, TNA and Spike. They had that big brawl to start off the Destination America era, and then I think Bobby Lashley won his first TNA World in America. Sammy Callahan beat Brian Cage to win the world title for the first time on Access TV's debut. And they did like this whole build up from LA to hype up the main event. They were outside the Staples Center. They were in this really fancy studio. Like they went all out. And I gotta say, Marcus, all things being even, this wasn't just the worst possible premiere for an episode of Impact I've ever seen. This might have been the worst episode of Impact I've ever seen. And there's a lot of reasons why. And it's not just all because of, I don't I don't hold to the idea that losing the Rascals, Jake something, Killer Kelly, I don't like holding on to those like, oh yeah, well they lost them right before their premiere, so that was gonna be rough. I don't think that hurt the premiere because if you're a good talent company, you're able to go and find good guys to come in. You can do so whenever. Like replacing talent is an expected situation. Like you need to be able to do that. And TNA for the most part has. Now, Delirious doesn't know how to use them, and Tommy Dreamer doesn't seem to have the balls or desire to change things, as we saw from this week's episode of Impact. But usually, you lose AJ Styles, you find an EC3. You lose an EC3, you end up finding a Josh Alexander. You lose a Josh Alexander, you should have someone else ready to go. And for the most part, they do with Mike Santana. But he's the only new guy that they got in a position of potential stardom. They've screwed the pooch in a lot of ways. And even with all that being said, their show shouldn't have been bad. Yes, I know the visa issues caused Annie Luna to miss Genesis and Impact. But even then, Leon Slater, same thing. I still don't think that was the reason that this show went to shit. Obviously, there was some directorial stuff. There was some editorial stuff. There was issues with when they were commercial. The amount of commercial. Oh, jeez, Marcus, watching it on AMC's official, broadcast because Sling TV is just a different way to watch cable. They would do the one I remember specifically. It happened 3 times. The one I remember exactly. We went to commercial break. We came back. We introduced the Knockouts tag teams. It was about 90 seconds, and then they went to another 3-minute commercial break. When they came back, the match was over. That's what I saw. That is a beat for beat example of what happened on this show. I did not see the TNA Knockouts Tag Team title match until after the show ended, when I went and found it myself, because Sling TV stream, which was the official broadcast stream of AMC, so that means if you had cable or satellite and you were watching AMC, that's exactly what you would see. Somehow fucked up. And it wasn't the first. They did that 3 times, where they would go on commercial break, come back, you'd see 30 seconds, and then, sometimes like with Raw, you would, like back in the day when I watched it on USA, they would do something like, hey, here's a 3-minute commercial break. Come back, here's 2 minutes worth of stuff, and then you get the bumper. Raw will be right back, or the match continues on, back from break. Then it was usually like a 90-second commercial break, and then you were back. That's not what happened. 3 minutes, 90 seconds, 3 minutes, at least. And they did that again in the main event. I know that for a fact. There was a third time, but I don't remember the third time. The other time I do remember, as they were introduced in the main event, Nick Nemeth came out. And then I think Frankie came out. And then they went to commercial. And then when they were back, they were still calling the match like they had been on there the entire time. Now, when the fuck did the match start?
Yeah, it was not good. This is just one of the many things that we're talking about. Not good, and probably being generous just using not good. WWE faithful fans listening, this is like if they did the thing was like they went picture in picture, and the big screen was the commercial and the little screen was the match, and they would go big commercial and commercial as the picture.
Yeah, they would. They really would.
It was that bad.
What's funny is it didn't need to be that bad. It really didn't. The reason why the show was bad, production issues aside, because I think that should be something they figure out. The reason why it was so bad is because how badly it was booked. Yeah, they lost Cassie Lee and Jessica McKay, but honest to God, we've seen enough of them to know they're terrible. I'm sorry. I know that's rude to say. They're fucking
Trash,
the only
trash.
thing that they had going for them, and again, delirious Hunter Johnson must be delirious to think he's good at his job. The only thing they have going for them is that they're great on the mic. They can do real fun skits. And in their 3 brief 10 years with the company, or however many we're on now, they did not have one memorable moment, one great promo, one truly great silly sketch idea. And instead, we had to watch them win tag titles that they were so bad at holding and winning that I never want to see them again in any way, shape, or form. And they left because so the rumor goes they believe they have better offers elsewhere that they want to pursue. Cool. TNA is a desperate enough hoe that they'll come back crawling should they be available. If I'm TNA, if I was TNA, I'd be like, listen, if you think there's a better deal, you go get it, sister. But you ain't coming back a 4th time or 5th time or whatever time we're on. That's not the only bit that was bad, though. I actually, if you go to realnerdcorp.com, RealNerdcorp.com, I posted a rebooking of the event using only the talent that was available to me.
Yeah,
And I think it
yeah.
was
Somebody who read it, if you didn't watch the premiere, just go read the article. So trust me, it's a better show. Reading it,
you'll hate it that this was not the show you got, but it is a better version of it.
reading it felt like a better show. Just put the music and insert pyro here, because they won't. Whatever in your head, you can do the commentary and the whole deal. Trust me, a far better show because if you watch the show, like it almost felt like they would have had to be better to be Bush League.
Yeah, yeah, that's that's fair. So one of the biggest issues that I had when we'll start with the opening is of course the AJ Styles of it all. AJ Styles is one of the few guys that I can actually like. You know how especially with Michael Jackson, I remember this was being a big talking point. They're like, you can love the music but you're a musician, and like there's a part of me that like, all right, maybe there's some truth to that. But like, there's the current scuttlebutt about like you need to respect Chris Benoit's talent and career. He murdered his son. If he wasn't dead, I'd kill him myself. But I can't kill him. So what I can do is erase his fucking lineage from this world by pretending he never existed. Fuck you and that concept that we need to respect Chris Benoit. No, fuck that. He killed his wife. He killed his kid. There's no, well, I can separate the art from the artist on that one. No, you fucking can. And if you can, you're a goddamn psychopath. Or a sociopath. Or just a narcissist. Or just fucking stupid. That being said, I can do that with AJ Styles. AJ Styles is a flat earther. He's like, I'm not a flat earther. I'm just saying stuff that doesn't make sense. And Bryan Danielson made him look like an ass. AJ Styles believes that when you have an abortion, they throw the fetal remains in a closet. That's not a joke. I'm not being facetious. It was the 2008 spin cycle presidential election debaters Booker T, BG James, aka Road Dogg, AJ Styles, and Mick Foley. And at one point, AJ Styles says, I want to know who's putting dead babies in closets. That's something that's important to me. That may not be a word for word quote. That's a 98% approximation of what he said. To say he's probably a Trump supporter would be the most obvious thing this side of the sun is hot.
Man, that's stupid.
Right? God, it must be great. Funny enough, Road Dogg's also a registered Republican, and in that same episode, Mick Foley and Booker went with Barack Obama, AJ Styles went with John McCain, because this was, again, 2008. And Road Dogg went with Barack Obama. Now, that doesn't make up for his terrible fucking writing as a booker, but, like, listen. He's got that going for him. But that being said, Styles is someone who can absolutely separate the art from the artist with. So I enjoy Styles still, as long as he keeps his mouth shut about things that pisses me off. And for him to be a part of the show. Now, there's two trains of thoughts here. One is the WWE let AJ Styles be on the show because TNA is having visa issues with Leon Slater. So they lent AJ Styles and I keep wanting to call her Delta because it's such a baller name.
Oh
And
yeah.
is that her? It's so bad. Whatever her name is in WWE, it's so bad. I'm gonna call her Delta because it's just better. They lent Styles and Delta and Soroka to and listen. I like Soroka. She needs to change her finisher because she's gonna be 30 and having to get hip replacements. But they lent them those individuals to make up for Danny Luna and Leon Slater not being able to get in the country. Oh, okay, fair. The thing that I wonder is that really the case? Because there's a lot of things in pro wrestling that you can pretty safely say should be believed, and anything that comes out of that company's mouth should not be believed. I don't know if that's just a conspiracy theory tinfoil hat concept, Marcus, that I'm having.
What's
But
the theory again?
the theory is that Leon Slater was pulled to work in a SmackDown match, and they sent AJ Styles to make good. The story is that Leon Slater couldn't make it to Impact, so the make good was, hey, we'll lend you AJ Styles if you're cool with him appearing on the show, since he can't be on Genesis or Impact anyway. We'll use him since they were in SmackDown was in England on Friday. We'll use him because he can't make it to your show, and instead of you getting nothing, we'll send you Styles, Soroka, and Delta. I think
Yeah,
it's the
I think
inverse
that's
personally, but like either way, Styles was here because
yeah,
Leon Slater was.
yeah, same. I think a error in whatever effort is going on right now to travel just worked out as a convenience for something WWE wanted anyway. Uh, I was gonna ask you about this later, but since he's the topic of discussion right now, like it feels like another situation, um, where they're trying to hinder Slater.
Yeah.
Um, that long job interview thing. That's that guaranteed long job interview. And with Styles, it also feels like that situation where Styles is the princess and TNA is coming to take on the prom, and then the father being WWE giving the talk. You don't look at her, you don't touch her, you don't blink, you don't da 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 da. You keep your if you blink, you can blink at her 3 times. If you do it a fourth, I will know. That whole deal, like that's what that feels like, and you'll exactly the difference when you read Chad's article, which is again the better show, versus what they did on the show, which felt like the absolute bare minimum for somebody that has that much historical context with that company.
So the way they used him was they're like, hey, this is Impact. Enough with the talk, and let's get to the wrestling. And then the wrestling never came. Then he did a brief segment with Frankie and a brief segment with um, Santana, and that. Now listen, that ain't nothing. The way I would have used him is better. I would still have him introduce, do like a full-on promo. I would keep it to a backstage segment to start things off. And then after a few matches, and as you get near the end of the first hour, then I'd bring him out to the live crowd and have him do something with Santana and Kazarian in the ring then. Get the crowd back up heading into the second hour. But, like, I understand how these things work.
Yeah,
They clearly don't.
yeah. Real quick? Do you think he wanted to be more involved than he was?
No, not necessarily. I think he's willing to do ball because he's a good employee and he believes himself to be and I shouldn't say it that way. He's always come off as a very professional human being when it comes to pro wrestling. And
Yeah,
he did stuff with other promotions when he was with TNA. And he's very happy to do stuff for other promotions with the WWE. Now, there's some rumors going about that Styles' WWE contract is up in early February. Hence why they're doing the Gunther AJ Styles Royal Rumble match at Royal Rumble and not at WrestleMania. Because there's a belief that Styles might leave the company. And if he does, who knows where he ends up. And I think they're far more willing to let him work in TNA at the moment with, the belief that he could just be out come February. Now, he might run up. He's talked about this being his last year in wrestling. I don't know if that's true. I think if he ends up, let's just play pretend. My favorite thing to do. I'm rich, I'm successful, everyone loves me. My cats don't try to eat my hands tonight. Let's play pretend. Let's say Anderson does not want to re-sign with the WWE. He's done enough in the company. He wants a new challenge before he retires. He goes to AEW. Maybe he returns to TNA. Who knows? But what I can tell you is that I think he's happy with what he's doing right now for TNA on the outside. I don't know if he wants to be more involved. I do know that he'd be open because, like, Styles is, for all the negatives you could say about him as an individual, and I say this with respect and AJ Styles is only for pro wrestling. If you said, "Hey, I guarantee there's a little bit of drool come down his lip," going, "Yeah, I do. Yeah, I really do." Because him and Bryan Danielson, while they're complete total opposites politically and ethically, morally, spiritually, they are the same when it comes to that. Bryan Danielson wants to wrestle in Arena, Mexico. He wants to wrestle with, who is a Blue Panther. He wants to wrestle in Japan. These are all things, now granted, not necessarily Blue Panther, but these are all things AJ Styles has wanted to do. He wants to wrestle all over the world. He wants to wrestle with the biggest names, the most iconic, legendary figures in the game. If you give him the kind of talent that he would want to square up with, I bet you he'd be interested. Now, I don't think TNA can match the price that AEW could, and I don't think AEW has the roster that AJ Styles would want to wrap up with. But to answer your question, no, I don't think he wanted to do more. Yes, I do think there's the possibility, however, that he does do more with TNA, especially if he does leave the company. But we'll see about that in time. Let's go to the first match. Of course, the Hardys come out. They came out with BDE, and here's what I'll say about this. I'm not a big fan of the Screamers. And I'm a little surprised that with Leon Slater out and BDE being, I don't want to use the term we usually use when it comes to the fluid guys, because that may have some unintended racial connotation. Matt and Jeff Hardy like to hang out with a certain kind of spot animals, yes? We remember their trip to the Broken Zoo.
The Flyers of Highness.
Yeah, there we go, yeah. Being the Flyer of Highness. Now, he's not Leon Slater. Slater is like, I don't know if you watch like you watch the bird of prey, like a hawk. We call them raptors. Because if you know your dinosaur history, raptors became birds. So it says evolution. I wasn't there personally, though. So, yeah. But we call all types of predatory birds raptors. If you watch them fly, they float on the wings, they go up, but then when they dive, they have this unique, almost poetic form. They're in complete and total control. They don't make a movement that's not intended, and then before you know it, bam! They're trying to kill you in a church party. To an old story that I once lived through. I don't believe Leon Slater's like that. He's like a cat. A cat always intends to do what it intends to do. Leon Slater moves with an effectiveness that I think guys like modernly speaking, like Osprey, has that same type of ability. There's a dynamic, athletic component to what he does that few others can do. He's Jeff Hardy. I don't think he's all that athletic, but he's dumb, just like Jeff Hardy. And he'll do dumb shit just like Jeff Hardy. And when you got someone like that, okay, you utilize them. Like Jeff Hardy is like, if Will Ospreay and Leon Slater are like the birds floating from thermal to thermal, diving and taking out animals with Jeff Hardy makes you drop on top of someone's head. Not the same, but still in its own way, it's impressive to watch. And I think not utilizing him on a show where you already lost now, in my rewrite of the show, I didn't put him in a match either, but that's because I had a different idea in mind. But they're not smarter than I am when it comes to writing creatively, so I don't expect them to be able to avoid easy options on television. I don't think they have the complexities to put out something more compelling. So, yeah, you put BD in a match. Hell, you put him in this match. Make it a four-way. Who cares? Out comes, of course, Order 4. And then we got, in my belief, the best match of the week from TNA. I loved this triple threat. I'm sorry, not the triple threat. The six-man tag. I thought it was fantastic. Elijah looked great. Order 4 looked great. The selling that Mustafa and Jason Hodge involved in was spectacular. It was so good. Good guys win. And then the Righteous came out. Now, we haven't talked a lot about the Righteous as of late and their feud with the Hardys. Basically, though, they've been doing this thing where we want to bring out the best in you. We want to save you. We think you're great. We love you. Show you we love you. But I think they screwed up here. In if I'm being honest, because they got violent with the Hardys, and I thought the whole idea behind this feud was that they loved the Hardys and they wanted to do something different. It kind of fell into old habits, and I thought it kind of ruined what we were getting from them heading into Genesis. And then Genesis happened, and their match was just fine. And I think here was, part of the issue. Marcus, what's your thoughts on the Righteous? I thought they were NXT bound, but I was wrong. They are official time.
Yeah, I dig it. This was one of the two things about this show that I actually really liked. Um, well, one of the three. We talked about it was just cool seeing AJ again in there, all that whole jazz. But yeah, of the matches, this certainly was one of them. I feel like Order 4, like the Hard to Happen, since they've been back, they really have really been like outside of Santana was last year, back half of extremely questionable, but they really have used the hardest damn near to perfection. Their matches have been, really must see. They've kind of really been pacing themselves well with the levels and places that they at in their career physically right now. They've been pacing that real well, obviously helping Slater a lot and doing their thing, but together just on their own, they kill it. And then obviously with BDE, they get the job done. In Order 4 has really picked up a lot of slack. Um, and really stepped up the levels that we see with the system and stuff, and really holding a lot of consistency in the company together when it comes to being reliable for quality matches. And that's what they delivered here. So
We then get a long, drawn out promo with Ryan Nemeth and who I call the AMC crew. It was two actors from a murder mystery show, I guess, and then uh, the I guess one of the main leads of the CM Punk, Justin Long vampire movie that's out. It actually looks pretty interesting. I'm gonna watch it. Marcus and I both dig
yeah,
on the horror elements to a degree. I don't think either one of us
yeah,
like to be. We like our spookums to be a little bit more heavy or heavy. So like, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
sit down and watch The Conjuring. Like, I'll watch this. I like vampire flicks. So that was cool. But everyone pointed out that they shot him on the opposite side of the arena where there wasn't as many people, and it made it look like there was no one in attendance. And yeah, that was fucking stupid. You put him on the other side where you have all these screaming fans behind him, and you make it look like $1,000. I didn't know Ryan Nemeth and Mara Sade, Mara Sade.
Yeah.
I didn't realize they were having a feud. Like that was weird. She super kicks Ryan. I'll say this: I don't know if Ryan Nemeth is good, but sometimes he is entertaining. And on TNA, man, that's enough.
Yeah.
That's fucking enough. Then we go to the most confusing segment of the night. Santino brings out fuck, what was her name? Sonya Deville. He brings out Sonya Deville, and he's like, "She's now doing my job, apparently." And I'm like, well, "Since when? But you're also still doing your own job?" It didn't make any fucking
By the way,
sense.
how many times is this? How many times they go run this story where he brings somebody in that punks him out of his position? His daughter, her, the Sonya, somebody before that. Like the gag got to come on with this gag now. Like either go be the guy, the authority, or not.
I don't mind Santino as the authority. He's goofy enough that I think it makes it fun. What I can tell you is there are times when we talk about wrestling and folks within the wrestling community and guys who can come in and be entertaining, be different, be unique. You don't always need to be big name. One of my favorites that TV brought in the last 6 or 7 years. Yeah, he was put he couldn't really move, but I still enjoyed the hell out of him. You know, oh hey, that's interesting. Yeah, that's cool. That's cute. Alicia Fox to a lesser extent. She's crazy, and she's enjoyable to watch. If you had given me, and I'm gonna be frank about this, roughly 5,000 guesses as to who I either A thought or B wanted to come in to do this segment with Santino, I still wouldn't be halfway to Sonya Deville. I don't have a problem with her. I don't know her. I can say that she is the least interesting, least charismatic, least functioning kind of individual you would come to think of put in this scenario. To, to say that she has a small fan base would be to imply that she has a fan base. I have not seen, and I've been doing this since 2006 to some degree or another. I have not seen anyone, and I mean anyone, talk about wanting Sonya Deville on the wrestling show. Either when she was an active wrestler, she became a figurehead, and she was doing her stuff with Mandy Rose, or no. I don't know what black she has on Carlos Silva, but it's gotta be damning. Because holy shit, talk about someone no one wants.
Yeah. Look, they tried this with her in WWE, and it sucked then. Gonna suck here. For me, I'm like, you need a second for Santino, who tends to be the jokester and all that. I throw a complete wrench in it. You won't come out of nowhere with something that doesn't suck like this, and somebody went hold my beer. It can get worse, and you're gonna get to that. I'd have somebody like a Shark Boy come in and play a straight man
Right?
as his second.
Be like, hey, Shark Boy. No, it's actually uh, what would be a funny last name? Shark Man Esquire
Well,
comes in a suit. with a tie, but he's still wearing his shark boy mask. And like,
Exactly.
every so often, like he'll be like, looking through the economic impact of the Chinese trade agreements with Taiwan, and then somebody like, Shark Boy, you want a clam? Oh, shell yeah! Be hilarious. You know what I didn't want? This. Now, if this brings in Mandy Rose, do I still have the same? Yes. Why? Mandy Rose could be like, I don't think she's a great wrestler, but she might get eyes on your product. But what I can tell you is I don't like continuing old rivalries in new companies when that rivalry sucked. Give me Tommy Dreamer and Raven. Give me, Sting and Jeff Jarrett. Give me the Steiners and whomever, right? Give me Samoa Joe and AJ Styles. To bring in, I don't even remember what her new name is. To bring in Sonya Deville just for the possibility that Mandy Rose pops up and they get into a feud again in TNA like they did in WWE. It sounds terrible because it was terrible then. Trying to repeat a bad thing in a new company doesn't make it good. It just makes it longer and worse.
She has turned a channel heat in the worst possible way, and I almost did. For me, stuck on stupid, sticking around. Somebody in the back went, "Hold my beer," because if you didn't like her,
So it got worse. Elena Black. Cora Jade is now in TNA. God, if you thought Indy Hartwell couldn't wrestle, we're about to lower that bar. I don't know what this company is doing. I really don't. There are 3 women on the Indies right now that would take a deal from TNA. I almost guarantee you. Bozilla, Jessica Rodan, and Nikki Blackman. You could reshape your entire division for the price it probably cost to get Elena Black, or whatever her name is, in the. Nope. Can't do it. Can't have good things. We got to rehash the old WWE-ness. When she wrestled, I haven't watched a lot of NXT, so like Cora Jade is overly familiar. I remember her TNA work though. Remember when she popped up in TNA last year or the year before? Jeez. Well, the only thing she's been doing since then is OnlyFans. It's not some derogatory statement. I mean, I guarantee you, if she wrestled anything, it's been like 2 matches since she got released by the organization. She is not improved. She is not some charismatic individual that lights up the room. And she's not somebody I pay to see, and yet we're wasting money on her. Meanwhile, Jake fucking Johnson is being the tag team of the year with Mark Davis over in AEW. Rascals, we'll get to that story here at the end of our show. Rascals, off in AEW. Ivan Reed wanted to stay in TNA. But they didn't do that. We got Elena Black and Sonya Deville. God, the hits keep missing.
Yeah, completely left field. People have theories. Might as well just throw this out because at this point we're on stuck lane anyway.
Might as
Do
well.
you think this is a deep, long plan to reverse engineer them putting Tesla back on top because of the level of suck that is in this division right now?
No, I hope not. Now listen, if you wanted to put Tesla Black on top, go. Right? The division can't get any worse. But I feel like trying to do it this way, making everything look bad by comparison, and then putting her on top, be like, oh, thank God. Tessa sucks, but thank God, because at least now we don't. Now we don't have to deal with this, right? The problem with that is you build her up to be at the top of a person on top of a pyramid of, pop sculpted, and it's destined to fall apart. So I think that would be a bad idea, personally.
just I can't. It's weird because Sonya is the type of character in this particular role who will try to inject herself as a obviously as an authority, but she'll also try to do something where she'll get into it with somebody and have a match. So it's like you brought in two people who have turned the channel heat in the worst way, and they can't go in the ring. Like what is it like? You would have had to cast better talent to be considered leftovers. This is like boo boo. Like whatever happened with when they threw Mickey's stuff out in the garbage. That's what this was. We ain't got nothing personal against these young ladies. Probably fine people, whatever have you, but they suck. It's not debatable. This company cannot take any more suck. They got enough of it in the front office. You can't afford it in the ring. I don't get it. I don't get it.
It does make a lot of sense. Then we get Perez Hilton for some reason. His involvement was already bad enough. They wasted money. And then he didn't do anything. He was in the ring for all of 90 seconds, which granted is still 90 seconds longer than I needed him to be there. But if you're going to bring someone in, like, do something. It's like putting a bad driver behind the wheel of like a Testarossa or a Ferrari or something like that. And then they just like don't do anything in it. And you're like, look, you get right. But why would you release Rock? I don't get that. I don't. And I don't know, man. Like, now that being said, the big involvement was that we get the reveal that I think is like it's not 18, it's something like that. It's like JR or ARE or something like that. He gets debuted as Mr. Elliott. A match with TNA at the end of last year, a couple matches at the end of 2024 or 2025. And he has a great look, great physique. He's super charismatic. He's a deep. I think his floor is Jesse Potter 2.0, but I think his ceiling might be higher than we give him credit for. And the Elegance brand, while Ash will always be the worst in this group, isn't a bad for him to be involved with, and I think he'll be a lot of fun in this role. So we'll find out how he develops, but this is a good prospect. Not the best debut, not the best gimmick, but this is the kind of wrestler TNA designed. So
Yeah, yeah. For me, this was probably I talked about how the last segment had me wanting to turn the channel. This actually made me turn the channel.
really,
Um, yeah, it was that cringe for me, and I'm not. This is not saying that. I don't disagree with anything you said about the young man, but the segment was trash.
yeah, it wasn't.
Like yeah, between Perez and the overdrawn outness and the awkward pauses and the camera work, like it's just another production thing. Like it was cringe on 10 for me, and I had to get out of there. Like I was like, okay, like he looks, they went from fat to, he went in the freaking transformation chamber and turned into this Adonis, the Captain America dude. But I'm like, this presentation is just is ass. Y'all could have did this better. This segment is like I feel like I heard a mosquito boo watching the damn thing, and I had to get out of there. But hopefully he does turn out to be something quality for the brand.
Now I don't disagree that they could have done a better job debuting him. The match itself, again, it was whatever. It wasn't that long. The Elegance brand wins. It's fine. It's not. It's terrible. Then we get Lee Ying Lee out with Cowboys Zaya Brookside, who is, mind you, this is still one of the worst tag teams in Knockouts history. there together. We then get Zarya, or whatever her name is, Delta, comes out with Solroka. She's taking up the mantle, if you will, to take on Li Yingli at Genesis, which we'll talk about briefly here in a little bit. That was that. Commercials. We get the system promo where JDC puts over his retirement match against Eddie. Then we get the main event where Mike Santana wins in a clusterfuck of a match. It was both rushed and way too long. Too many commercial breaks. Too many bad spots. They did this random ass spot where Santana's about to put down Mikey, then they start yelling at the ref for no reason. Who booked that? Show ends with the WWE executive producer writer nonsense that we've been getting, which is just fucking terrible. But as the show ends, Nick Nemeth comes out, gets beaten up by Santana. It was what it was. You know, it wasn't. It wasn't good. It was fine. The match was always fine, but it should have been so much better than just fine. By the way, Mr. Elegance is Andreas John Zeidler, AJZ. And fun fact, when he was in OVW, his gimmick was that he was the nephew of Dolph Ziggler. So now that Nick Nemeth and him are on the same roster, let's see what happens there. Overall, disappointing show. Gotta be honest though, Genesis, I can't say was better. As far as a one, as far as the expectations, right? As far as the one of the live broadcast on cable. The other one was a $40 cable. It wasn't bad. I would say emphatically that Genesis was a waste of $40. Now, if Genesis was a Impact Plus event, show, right? Nothing to write home about, but when you pay $40, you expect to see some shit, right? You expect to see some stuff that moves the needle. The best match, in my opinion, may have been the International Championship match, and that's not good. That was Eric Young, BDE, KJ Orso, who was the mystery man for the event, and Stax. Stax is fucking terrible. Stax somehow gets the win. Of course he does. Who cares? Tessa mentioned him, Mila Moore. I love in the graphic, Tessa's actually taller than Mila Moore. When Tessa's 5 foot, Mila Moore's 6 foot. That's the stupidest fucking render I've ever seen in my life. She took on, what was her name? Vicious Vicky Venlito, I guess. And they try to make it seem like a big deal, like it's Vicious Vicky. I'm like, who the fuck is Vicious Vicky? Come the fuck on. And she paired up with Indy Hartwell in a match that you don't need to ever watch. Then we get the AJ Francis Rich Swann match, which was very good. I'm going to say something though. Everyone is like, you can't believe on AJ Francis. Who is it? Every time people can talk about how good an AJ Francis match is, it's with somebody who's talented. I'm sorry, but AJ Francis isn't a great wrestler. He can only do so good with the guys he has with him. He's not an athletic being. He failed in the NFL. He wasn't good. The Rich Swann match was solid. It was a solid opener, but Swann is top 50 wrestler in the world. He should be able to get a good match. So, like, I don't know. Marcus, should we be buying more into the AJ Francis hype?
You put him in the right scenario with the right person, he can be a compliment. But like, as you said, it is a lot on the other person. He ain't Tyrus. That's that'll be insulting, really, anybody you put in that scenario. As far as like the drizzling shit would have been an improvement, but I think AJ Francis has been serviceable, certainly in the heel role, the best. And obviously he does what he needs to do on the mic. He does anything they ask of him. He's obviously loyal. Uh, but yeah, we're not going out there to see him put on 5 star. But I think somebody that can put in the type of work that Rich Swann can, he can compliment them in a way, in all the ways that a big man can. Plus, it's just good to see Rich get back into the mix. So. But in terms of like just hyping AJ up from an in-ring point perspective, no. I mean, we just did talk about. Did he almost kill himself last year on the ladder? Decapitated legs or something?
Yeah, yeah. He got pushed
Yeah,
off the ladder and damn near killed himself.
yeah. So
Not great. Um, we then go to the next match. It is Mustafa versus Elijah. Solid match. I like these two together. They're good together. I will say this:
mhm.
even though Elijah broke the leg, I don't think he's missed a step. I think he's still pretty good. I was really impressed with him back when he was in the WWE.
Yeah.
Elias, one of my favorite guys to watch when I go watch their product. I don't know if he's a main eventer in TNA, but I don't think he's turned the channel boring. And right now, that's pretty much what half the roster is. I'm curious to see what they do with him going forward. I do feel like a heel turn is coming because, and only because I know that they already did this. They shot those vignettes with Elijah and the Righteous like a year ago before Elias came into the TNA. When everyone thought
Uh,
Elijah and the Righteous were going to AEW. This was probably right after Vincent already left TNA because Vincent was in TNA during that Ring of Honor No More gimmick. So
yeah.
I'm curious to see what happens here. Ali gets the win. Hard to fight the order. JDC and Eddie Edwards, solid match. Nothing I would say would be, here's the thing. I think JDC got this match, one, because I think he's in line to and two, because I think he's well. He's been with TNA for 3-ish years. But outside of his initial stuff and his feud over the digital media title, I don't think he's ever done anything worthwhile. His involvement in the system was weird. And I remember Sammy Callahan retiring and kind of getting nothing when he was in probably every great match, or at least one great match in TNA since he debuted in, what was it, 2017? And he got next to nothing with his retirement. And JDC gets the entire locker room, gets a standing ovation. It made no sense. Made no sense. But it was a good match. Eddie gets the win. I would. The pomp and circumstance of John Cena's final match aside, I do think this was a better retirement match than John Cena's. But that's because JDC could still move, and John Cena looked like he was walking upstairs with a leg that was 3 feet too short. So,
Huh.
any thoughts on JDC's career retirement match or the send off?
And Mustang to you was cool to see. Glad he got to do it with a friend. Obviously, it felt like they did the promo on Impact. It was emotional, and obviously it was emotional here. So a lot of people haven't gotten a chance to go out on their own sword, on their own steam, if you will. So from that perspective, that was cool to see. I always appreciate that, even if I didn't really like anything he did in ring wise. Um, he worked more as a personality, a lot of times more for me. Um, I think the most disappointing thing, it was cool to see him get the fanfare and everything. I think the most disappointing thing for me, in the midst of everything that we currently talking about, have been talked about, and sadly will probably continue to talk about, is like again with the roster, like because you can see the people came out for him on stage. I'm like, that is such a great snapshot of just how depleted this roster is. and it's sad. Um, but yeah, like I said, he's done. I don't know because he's getting old. He kind of just wants to pull the cord on it, like you said. Maybe he gets a role backstage or something. But this was cool to do, and I wonder who they're gonna get to replace him. I think that's pivotal with as consistent as the system has been, and really a vital part of the product for the last 2-3 years
Mm-hmm.
with everything that's been going on. So it's gonna be interesting seeing who they replace him. Hopefully, that's not another crap debut. So,
All right, that takes us to Marsade versus Ryan Nemeth. Ryan Nemeth gets the win. It was the kind of match you would expect it to be. I don't know what they're doing, but here we are. Didn't need to be on the show. Zarya and Li Yingli had a pretty solid match. I was worried that Zarya would get the win because, TNA will bend and spread for the NXT overlords. That's what they do. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. Either they have plans to have Danny Luna win the belt, or they have plans to give Li Yingli a full and proper title run. Either way, I'm just glad Zarya didn't win. Now, listen, if Cal had signed with TNA, hell yeah, put the belt on her. Zarya is one of the few NXT names I'm not mad to see that belt. She was dope. Her name sucks. Decent look. Gimmick. Don't understand the pairing with Sol Roca, but what have you.
yeah, if that happened and they ended up getting about some miracle, because it just that comes off more like logical reasoning. Somebody you get as opposed to the two we just saw on the AMC debut. Would you trust them to not hammerstone that?
As in, like, if they had brought in her.
Yeah.
No, I don't trust this writing staff to not hammerstone any cool talent they bring in. Now, better writing staff, me, what have you, a slug that's eating salt. Yeah, I believe in them with Zarya, but Hunter Johnson's the worst fucking human being to write wrestling. I don't know why he still has a job. So, post match, Elena Black is like, "Hey, I'm gonna take the belt," and I cried a little bit. We then got a solid tag team title match. Solid is the best I could give it. Dutch isn't really a great worker, and the Hardy Boys are 50. Like, you were working with kind of a shallow bag. The Hardys retain, and I don't know what the end game here is for the Hardys anymore. They just keep winning. They just keep winning.
Who
Leon
did you
Slater.
have him, bro?
Oh, God, I don't know. So here's the issue with a lot of this. Sinners and Saints are undersized and have no. That's just the truth. Jason Hodge has to carry around John Skyler. So I think the best possible situation is you pair Jason Hodge with either Judas Sickers or Travis Williams. You get a new tag team. You push them. But um, who else do they have? I don't want to see them win the tag titles again. I don't know. Maybe pair Elijah with somebody. They don't have any tag teams anymore. Oh, the Andersons. Just fucking give them to Brock and CW. At this point, you can't do too much worse than them. They got size. They got the history behind them. Plus, you might get the added benefit of Arn Anderson. That's the biggest upside for any other tag teams that they've had on the roster over the last month. You might see Arn, who's nearly 70. That's the selling point. They need new tag teams in this company. Holy shit, do that. Leon Slater gives a brief little promo. He would then show up and lose on SmackDown. Joe Hendry, Cedric Alexander, and Moose had a match. Moose apparently, according to Moose, so take that with a fucking grain of salt, apparently did fuck up his back pretty good. He did finish the match, and it was a pretty solid match all in all. Cedric, though, should have won. He didn't. Joe Hendry won. NXT's Joe Hendry. So we're still having NXT dominate TNA wrestlers. La, 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 la. We then get the Texas Death Match. It's Mike Santana and Frank Kazarian. I generally thought Nick Nemeth was about to cash in during the proceedings because this company can't be trusted. The cash-in is the worst concept that's ever been introduced in the history of wrestling. Thankfully, though, in what I would say is a good match, it's not great, a good match. Santana wins, retains. Nemeth doesn't cash in. The show ends, and this match was substantially better than the Impact match. And here we go. All in all, a pretty ho-hum. Thoughts on Genesis as a whole, Marcus?
Yeah, whole humdinger, man. The one thing we have been able to rely on through all the downs, a lot, has them putting on solid to good to sometimes even great um Impact Plus specials and their pay per views. Now what they've been on the TV, the lacklusterness of that, on top of obviously the lack of crowd, as you've consistently pointed out, um, has been one thing, and ironically, the shows and specials have been another. I don't know why they can't seem how to get that to translate, but whatever. Again, the front office is trash. So this was solid, better, like you said, in the debut, but that's not saying much, if anything, at all. Like I said, your writing, reading it was better than reading what you wrote was better than watching that AMC debut. Um, because I wasn't even enthused, and I told you this in a text. I'm like, I had no enthusiasm to watch next week's show, let alone Genesis coming off of that AMC debut. Um, I don't even know if I would have caught the highlights of it had I not, had we not been talking about it tonight. So they have they done kicked a lot. They done super kicked a lot of the enthusiasm away from me. Like I appreciate some of the talent that they still have. They should be thanking God. Moose is still there and still going in whatever capacity he is at stake. Um, Hopefully they can maintain Santana. They were smart. Thankfully, keep Ali because those are guys they're gonna have to depend on. Um, I don't know where they keep trying to go with this storyline of that Santana's almost on the verge of being screwed. I didn't see like you said, the obviously I guess we should have expected the potential cash in, but I didn't know if not before that he was that Nick was going to bust out in a Chippendale routine with what he had on. I'm like, Jesus, you couldn't just wear pants? Okay. Um, but yeah, like I said, it's solid, but again, that's not saying much coming off that AMC debut. And if that was any indication of what they weekly television shows go consistently be, we are going to end up having to do something else for these shows because that is embarrassing. That was embarrassing.
Yeah, all in all, I think TNA should be concerned. The rumors are that AMC is happy with the first episode live, and the 175,000 viewers, if that's an accurate number, seems pretty low. And on top of everything, it deflates the paid for narrative of the WWE shill podcasters that TNA is ready to take over the number 2 spot. No, they're fucking not. Listen, some chode on the internet said, "Oh, comp tickets, that's bad." The guy who said, I looked him up. I think it was like a wrestling ringside news. I think it was a ringside news article, so you already know it's full. Some guy whose name has never been used in the history of wrestling, even worked in football. And I know for a that they comp tickets. You already know that every sporting industry does. Every sporting industry does. There can be people who did not pay to go to the Super Bowl. There are people who did not pay. No. There are going to be people who go to WrestleMania that didn't buy those tickets. Shocking. I know. This individual, though, tried to spin it like, oh, yeah, they're comping all their tickets. They're not. The guy who said it, if he was involved in a TNA segment, which he did not wrestle, and to be called a former TNA wrestler or TNA employee, whatever the headline was, is not accurate. If at anything, he was an extra, and no extra in the history of extras has ever been given the kind of knowledge and know-how of how a company does business, because here's the shocking thing. They're not important. They're a fucking extra. The person who also said these comments is trying to get over as a podcasting personality, because he also had something to say about MJF. Talking about how MJF shouldn't, I don't remember what it was, but I think it was like how MJF shouldn't insult the man or something like that. Like, he's trying to be purposely combative. And if you're being purposely anything in today's day and age, that's contrarian, combative, you're doing it for clout and for notoriety to build a brand. So no, I don't believe this asshole when he says that TNA comps. They don't. TNA does comp some tickets. They do give out some tickets. That's not some shocking thing. But we also have the ability to track how many tickets they sell. So I don't know what this dude's whole thing was. But I digress. TNA is not going to be the number 2 promotion anytime soon. But I do think that they can improve upon these numbers with better quality. They fire Hunter Johnson. If they get rid of whatever blackmail he has, they can improve the product. If they get rid of Carlos Silva, they can get better product. Apparently, the current run of individuals who've been running this company, not exactly great people. Carlos Silva has been bad at it. If we're looking at just pure talent retention, product development, and all that, he's been bad at his job. The guy he took over from, apparently, changed Josh Alexander. Josh Alexander just went out and said that the guy before Carlos Silva, who was running TNA, apparently he was the second president of TNA. Apparently, he was so bad at his job that Josh Alexander felt that he was being disrespected, even though the deal that had been offered to him was a good deal. TNA apparently is, in fact, offering guys good contracts, at least comparable to AEW contracts. But there's something with management that's making them not say yes. Let's see. Let's see how many. I want to say there's been 3 dudes who've ran TNA since D'Amore left. Check this out here.
Real quick while you look that up. I feel like I know the answer to this. Were we too harsh on Demore?
No. What I'll say about this, and it'll be very matter of fact, the D'Amore era was more good than bad, but that doesn't mean he was great at it. He had an eye for talent. He did not always have a strong concept of what needed to be done. I point to the whole situation with Kushida and Steve Macklin. When they lost Josh, their first idea was, let's go with 2 mid-carders, one who can't speak English and one who is Kushida. That was mean. I'm sorry, Steve Macklin. But like at the time, Steve Macklin didn't have a lot of notoriety, didn't have a lot of notability. He was not seen as someone who could move the needle. He hadn't really started to make a body of work. and they rushed him into that title scene, and then like 2 months later, Alex Shelley wins the belt. Made no fucking sense. Now you had to move on from Josh. He was horrible. But you didn't need to go with Steve Macklin, and you didn't need to make it Kushida. It didn't make any fucking sense. And you look at stuff like that. That wasn't the only time he did it. And there were some other instances where um, he did similar shit to that. I also got to point out that there were some issues with Don Callis, like some significant behind the scene instances that went unchecked. TNA didn't lose Killer Cross because WWE came calling with a lot of money. They lost him because Don Callis allegedly was terrible to his girlfriend at the time, Scarlett Bordeaux. They quit in solidarity because of her treatment at his hands. Now, eventually, I don't even think that long after he was gone, but apparently it was Karen. So the rumor goes. If you're, I think he at the time was co-vice president or co-president with Alex, when that's the situation at hand, you let it get that bad, yeah. I do think there were issues with Don Callis that needed to be addressed, and I think Scott D'Amore's failing of that kind of showed you that D'Amore wasn't exactly the most up and up individual. Still, that being said, if D'Amore came back today as owner, would I have more faith in the product than I would currently with Silva and Delirious? Does that mean he's the best fit for the role? No, it doesn't. I think D'Amore is an improvement. I think D'Amore is better. I don't think D'Amore is good. That would be my official stance on that. What do you think, though? Do you think D'Amore would be a step up, or do you think D'Amore is they should go back to call him up and be like, "Hey, Dave." Marcus. So to clarify, TNA has only had two presidents since they got rid of D'Amore. Anthony Siccione, and then of course Carlos Silva. Marcus, you back?
Y'all good? You can hear me?
Yeah, I hear. Do you think D'Amore had a better run as a booker than Silva and Delirious?
I agree with you. It was more better good than bad. Um, I think if for nothing else, I think the most useful way in which he provided, which doesn't feel like it's there now, is stability of talent. Because ultimately, whatever loyalty that he inspired, a lot of the people I felt stayed there because of him,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not there now. There's a distrust. When they jetted out names of Gail Kim, and she, you know, hasn't missed words when she's talked about the lack of leadership there, even with leadership there. And if that level of loyalty was still there, we wouldn't see such an exodus that we're seeing. On top of the trash booking. So, I think that he inspired a lot of loyalty. I mean, I think, the height of it obviously was when you saw him gathered in the ring for when they did that great promo bringing the name back, TNA. Um, but yeah, I feel like that's feels like another lifetime at this point, what we've seen. So we definitely needed to move forward. I don't know if had he got the company, if it would be in the same shape that his Canadian promotion is in now, without a TV deal and whatnot, kind of just running what they run, like what, bi-monthly or something to that effect.
For their pay-per-views?
Yeah, just a promotion in general. He do it like once a month.
When D'Amore was in charge, yeah, once a month or twice a month.
Yeah, and then obviously he got the same thing with his company now.
His new company is only running episodes. They're running infrequently. I think he's
Yeah,
actually working with a second production as well.
yeah. So who's to say what TNA would be had he bought it? But while he was there, man, I just he kept the morale up, and we just didn't see a lot of this exodus. We needed to move forward, but what we moved to is it feel like we're in neutral and not drive.
Reverse. Speaking of reverse, maybe reversing course, he left with his buddies Myron Reed, Zachary Wentz, and Desmond AEW. However, reported this weekend that Myron Miguel was not visiting his friends, making it the second time in history that he left TNA to follow his friends to a different company and didn't work out. He followed Zachary Wentz to NXT tryout, and he was not. So there you go. Trey, however, went this time, had a contact, everything was set, and what ended up happening was that folks apparently at WBD made the decision to void his contract. Basically, told Tony we're going to inflammatory comments that was made back in 2020, where he basically insulted Sarah's Jewish heritage and made some less than kosher comments towards the Jewish community. Now, I don't think he was directly targeting Jews or going after any type of gay people. I think he was trying to be a dick to David Starr and just thought of insults that didn't land like he thought they would. I don't believe he's an anti-gay. I don't believe he's an anti-Semite. His tweets wouldn't really support him. It just comes off as a young man trying to be edgy. But WBD doesn't feel the same and basically told Tony they need to get rid of him. And that's not too shocking considering WBD is on the verge of being purchased by Netflix. And they don't want any types of issues during this situation that would cause them to look less valuable than they are. So they're going to be a bit stricter when it comes to the talent being brought in. I've forgotten about this Trey Miguel situation because it was a non-story in 2020. But David Starr being some weirdo who's no longer in the wrestling industry because of his treatment of others, that I don't remember. And the funny part about all of this is David Starr has actually reemerged in the wrestling conversation this week in defense of Trey Miguel. So if you're wondering why Trey Miguel is not with his buddies in AEW, it's because Warner Brothers Discovery decided that his prior comments were too spicy, and they don't want to take the risk of any type of backlash. I have to imagine he'll be back in TNA. What about you?
Yeah, I'm glad you cleared that up because the way it came off, I thought he had like a real sudden tragic personal loss, and he had to step away to deal with it. Thankfully,
I
that's
knew
not
it
the
was one of
case.
two reasons. I knew it was either this or he popped for drugs. There wasn't a third option. So when this actually did break, I was like, yeah, that's what I thought it was. I even tweeted out this is gonna be sad when people find out.
Yeah, so this is disappointing, but we've this ain't the first time we've seen something like this. Well, certainly won't be the last.
Nope.
Um, Imagine how you you know the, the eggshells that I would imagine sometimes I feel like they gotta walk on opinion wise when it comes to with that relationship with the Saudis. So, um, yeah, it's unfortunate, and like you said, this is the second time this has happened where the Rascals jump ship as a what do they call it now? A downloadable uh bonus pack that you pay for in the video games
Oh
now.
yeah, the DLC.
Yeah, the downloadable DLC that they jumped as a pack, and he got jettisoned from it. It sucks, and I don't know if he's coming back to TNA, but they couldn't use him. So you know.
TNA could absolutely. We'll see what happens there. That being said, I do think we're at the end of the road for this week's show. Marcus, any final thoughts?
Oh man, that's it for me, TNA man. Y'all gotta get it together. First time back on TV, and I'm glad y'all are. But you got to do better, man.
Together. That being said, we're done. RealNerdCorp.com. Go check out the article. It's the top article on the website for at least right now. RDCRP.com. Marcus, you can find on Twitter ARADOXKID.
That's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The Crew Penny Show, TRUEPENNYSHO. You guys are doing on this week's pod.
Coming up, we may be looking into potentially doing like the life and times of a one fit Finley. So be on the lookout for that.
That'd be fun. Then you can find me on Twitter, Chad Nerdcorp, CHEDNERDCORP, or you can find me on Instagram with Chad's photo at CHEDSPOTOHT. Be sure to check it out as well. We're on YouTube and Twitch at Wrestling Underground. We haven't been on Twitch in a little bit because we're trying to figure out the bandwidth, making sure we can get things right there. But we will return once things kind of get figured out a bit. Until then, all of our shows go straight to YouTube anyway, so go check us out there. We'll be back next week. We're going to conversations we're having. Next week, we will have our 2025 recap. It will be next week. I'll be pulling together the crew tomorrow night, I think. And we'll tackle it and have some fun and get everything situated. So be sure to tune in next week. We will talk to you about who we have. I think it's going to be our 16th award show. We've been around for time this year. We're going to keep doing it. Because it's really kind of great television. So for Marcus, I'm Chad. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance for wrestling and Marcus.
Good night. Be